On this week's episode, we're headed to Sweet Home Chicago to visit with one of the nation's top young basketball coaches. Coach Ehsan has built a career on being an elite recruiter, developing relationships, developing players, and building culture of success at all of his stops, including 3 power conference institutions. We'll talk about growing up in Sacramento, playing at UC Davis, making the transition from D2 to D1, and then how he started his climb up the coaching ladder with respected coaches like Gary Williams, Seth Greenberg, and Jared Haas. Using his first stint as a head coach at UAB and the lessons he learned and what excites him the most about the future of Flames basketball. Coach Ehsan, welcome to Deep in the Valley.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys being here. And I'm not as young as I once was, so I appreciate you guys saying that.
On a personal note, I got to spend a little bit of time out in your neighborhood out in the Central Valley. And so I got to experience a lot of Highway 99 and all those nice little towns in the Central Valley playing baseball on a weekly basis, which kind of goes right into the first question is every story has a beginning, and yours is rooted in Sacramento in the Central Valley. And being in that NorCal side, there's a lot of things, a lot of opportunities to do a lot of different things. So what drew you to basketball and your upbringing and where the love and the passion for the game started?
Yeah, good question. Neither of my parents played basketball when they were growing up. I lived with my mom. My parents were divorced when I was really little. My mom, my sister. I was a typical kid playing all different kinds of sports. And as I got a little bit older in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I think I just took a liking to basketball. At that time, the Sacramento Kings were not great, but they were very popular. And then as I got a little bit older in my high school years, and that's when the Sacramento Kings became just an amazing franchise with all the great players and that great run. And it was an exciting time to be in Sacramento, to be playing basketball, to be following the Kings. And really what all started there, I think the best player from my era was Matt Barnes. Matt Barnes was larger than life. He was a year or two older than me. We played Little League baseball together. He grew up in my neighborhood. He went to UCLA. That was such a big deal being from Sacramento. And then I was lucky enough to play varsity basketball for 3 years and have a chance to go play at UC Davis, which was an amazing experience for me.
So after a very successful high school career at Bella Vista, you chose to stay close to home and play for UC Davis. Take us back to the year 2000. When you started getting recruited, what was that process like? How much different is it than today? And what made UC Davis the right fit for you?
You know what, Chris, I was lightly recruited at that time through high school. I had a couple different schools talking to me in and out. I remember this. I sent out probably my junior year, I would say I probably sent out 50 highlight VHS videos to different colleges across the country trying to be recruited when I was younger. I'll never forget, I got a letter in the mail back from Indiana basketball, and it was from Coach Knight, but then it said it was his secretary who wrote it. But I was so excited just to get a letter back from that. I can't remember who it was. Oregon State had sent me a handwritten note saying we're going to watch you, some of the things you remember, but lightly recruited. My high school coach at the time, Scott Sharp, who is now my chief of staff, full circle UIC. I remember taking me up to Davis during the springtime. They would have these open gyms. A couple guys would come in and play. He would drive me up there. I'd play a few times. And then really that's how it started. And then be able to go to Davis, amazing academic institution, close to home, good college town, 2 years removed from the Division II national championship. It was a really, by far, honestly, the best opportunity I had. Could have gone to the Naval Academy and maybe some other schools like that. But when you combine all of that, location, academics, the success of the basketball program, the size of the school, it was really an easy no-brainer for me.
Yeah, and you had a couple different changes while you were at UC Davis. You have the jump from Division II to Division I, and then I think between your sophomore and junior year, you have a coaching change as well. So, a little bit on the change side of things, and we see in today's world what happens, what changes. And maybe talk a little bit about those changes with the coaching, and then the next big step in D1 and playing an unaffiliated schedule in that last year, trying to have some success in that.
When I went to UC Davis, first of all, almost everyone redshirted. That was just the normal there. And I look back at how awesome that year for me was too. Now the new rules, there's no red shirts, believe it or not, right? In 2026. But the opportunity to go to Division I was something, it worked out. Again, I've been blessed and very lucky in my life and career, and it worked out amazing for me to redshirt, then play 2 years. So as I'm getting better and really getting into the rotation, now we're going Division I. So to be able to have a chance to start against Division I competition for 2 years and be like a captain, if you will, was an amazing experience for me. The timing was perfect. I remember our last year, like, we had a couple coaches, a couple guys that on my college team that are coaching now. And I feel like we were pretty mature. And I remember us thinking like, okay, all these Division II guys, we're about to go play this Division I schedule. I think we won 13 or 14 games. Looking back is honestly extremely impressive what we did when nobody was really, we didn't really have full scholarships back then because we were we were transitioning. And then going through the coaching change. Yeah, it taught me, it was a unique experience. I remember they brought the final three candidates to meet with the players, which was so foreign, right? And so all the players were sitting in there and we're listening to the candidates, and then we're asking questions. And yeah, and Gary Stewart, who still I'm close with to this day, has done a ton of work for the NABC and the NCAA. He was our coach for the last couple of years. And it was, like I said, just an amazing experience. I tell young people, anytime I speak about my college days, arguably as transformational time of any 5 years in my life. And I think the number one reason was the people, the players, the teammates that I had, the character, the work ethic of the group of guys that I was around, and the friendships that it really transformed me.
And so after graduation, you immediately stepped into a coaching role as a grad assistant at Maryland for Gary Williams at the time. In the ACC, you got to coach alongside a Hall of Fame coach there for 6 years. Can you talk to the fans about how that opportunity came about for a California kid to make it all the way across the country to Maryland? What was that experience like? And maybe the lessons you learned that you've carried forward and made a part of your philosophy at UIC.
Yep. So when I was in college, I knew I might want to coach, and I loved the ACC. I grew up dreaming of playing at North Carolina, Maryland. I love the rivalries. I think where I'm from, probably that was what ESPN was showing most of the time up. So in college, I had this idea. I'm going to email all these coaches, Maryland, North Carolina, Duke, and I'm going to ask them if I could come work their basketball camp, and I'll do it for free. And I sent out all these emails, and Maryland assistant says right away, hey, yes, Rob, you can come out here. Here are the dates. So I made it a tradition. I went out to Maryland every summer. This is a crazy story, but going into my senior year, I wasn't sure if I wanted to coach. Coaches didn't make money in my experience because of the coaches at UC Davis. Great guys, but they didn't make a lot of money, especially the assistant coaches. When I had an economics degree, I wanted to make money. And so I got this job offer to be a consultant at Accenture. I got the job in November going into my senior year, and played my senior year thinking that's what I was going to do. But I also was going back to work Maryland camp one more time before I went into the workforce. And as fate would have it, Dave Dickerson, assistant coach at Maryland, gets the Tulane job in April or May. He takes the Maryland grad assistant with him. I harass them for a month or two. Please hire me. Please consider me. They tell me, come out and work camp and we'll talk to you. I went out there. I literally go out there. I work camp for a week, not knowing what, if anything, would happen. I have this job in San Francisco. I'm supposed to start in a month, and make a long story short, they hire me, and my whole life takes a different trajectory, as you can imagine. If that week goes different, who knows what would happen. So get the opportunity to work for Gary Williams. Coach Williams, so good to me. I tell everybody I really got a PhD in college basketball in general, my 6 years there. Started at the bottom as a graduate assistant coach. 6 years later, when Gary's retired, for 7 or 8 days, I was named the interim head coach at Maryland. I joke that my career's gone downward spiral since that 7 days, but I got just to experience at the highest level what college basketball is like. And working for Coach Williams, a Hall of Fame coach, he did not need to treat me as well as he did. And for that, I'll be forever indebted to him. He made me assistant coach when I was 23, 24 years old. He gave me a ton of responsibility. We won the ACC in 2010 and had an amazing run. And just an incredible experience.
So yeah, you mentioned your little 7-day head coaching experience. It puts you into a little bit of a pivot at this point in time, right? There's a lot of things that can happen, especially with young coaches. You can try to find that next job, or you can pivot into something different. But the Virginia Tech ends up being your new destination for the 11-12 season. And talk a little bit how about that opportunity came about, and then working with Coach Greenberg as well.
When Coach Williams retired, it was somewhat unexpected. And I think I was so young and naive in a good way that I just thought easily, I'll just get another really good job. And it just, again, it worked out. Coach Greenberg was looking for an assistant. He knew some of the guys on our staff who spoke highly of me. I think I fit their staff dynamic. Also, my recruiting experience in the DMV was something Virginia Tech had done a lot of. And so I went there for 1 year. Coach Greenberg, as I've told this to many people, is arguably as good as any coach I've ever been around in X's and O's. He could do a coaching clinic on literally any topic at any time on the spot and absolutely kill it. He could. And I think that's one of the things that I learned just from him in that 1 year, and had the opportunity to stay in the ACC. And then when Coach Haas got the job at UAB, it was an opportunity to go down to a new place, start a new program, and be in an associate head coach type role and take that next step that way.
So the journey with Coach Haas, and you get that associate head coach position, and the team's improved every single year. You guys were there. You're building that program. When you look back at it today, what was done to build a culture of improvement, which led to the increased performance with respect to wins and losses?
When Coach Haas got the job, we only had 7 scholarship players. There was no transfer portal. We were scrambling, as you can imagine, to put it together. I think Coach would tell you the same thing. It was an amazing experience because we were kind of going through first-year head coach, first younger staff together. It was Coach Haas's first time as a head coach. He had been at North Carolina for a long time. So I think what we were able to do, and it took about 2 years, what we were able to find guys that fit him as the head coach and how he wanted to play and how he wanted to run the program. And at the time, as you guys, it's so important. And that was a huge lesson learned, that you got to find guys that fit the head coach, not just basketball on the court, but personality. And so we were able to do an amazing job recruiting, just old traditional, a little bit of junior college, a little bit of high school, but man, we put together an amazing, talented team. And we're able to, after 2 years, went back-to-back, won conference tournament champion, Conference USA championship. Then we turned it around and won the regular season. And really, we had an amazing 4-year run of building something really special.
And we're an Iowa-based podcast here. Both Brian and I grew up in Iowa. And so after winning the COCA tournament, you did upset number 3 seed Iowa State at one point in the NCAA tournament. You want to talk about that to all of our listeners in Iowa, make some friends?
Yeah, that was 2005. Iowa State had just won the Big 12 tournament championship, and they were like a very trendy Final Four pick. I remember that going into the tournament, and we were the first game on Thursday, like the first or second, noon or 11 a.m. in Louisville. And looking back, I think they really took us for granted. I think the classic Cinderella story. And we had a really good team that year. And we were very athletic. I think our athleticism bothered them. And it wasn't just an amazing classic NCAA tournament upset. 14 beats the 3. As you can imagine, we're in Louisville. Iowa State has a good amount of fans, but as the game's going on, the arena is starting to cheer for us because tons of fans from other programs are there looking for the upset. And down to the wire, we beat them, obviously. And it was one of the best wins, obviously, of my career.
Yeah. Absolutely. So after the 15-16 season, Coach Haas leaves to take the job at Stanford. We've talked to many coaches about that 12-inch move, 1 seat down the bench, and how different it is being the head coach instead of the associate head coach. Can you talk to us about that move? And what were some of the first things that you wanted to implement to put your stamp on the program?
Yeah, we could do a full couple days podcast on this topic, but very challenging situation, opportunity. It was amazing to be the head coach at, I think I was 33 years old. You look back, I do so many things differently. I was just young. What makes you good as an assistant coach in college is the ability to work your butt off, solve every problem. You just work and just continue to knock out tasks. And I felt like I was really good at it. When you become the head coach, you have to really be able to step back, trust your staff, hire a good staff, develop a good staff, find out who you are. I tell people, I think it takes you 2 years. It took me 2 years as a head coach to really figure out who I was. Was I going to be Gary Williams? Was I going to be Coach Haas? I needed to be Rob Ehsan. I think that took me a while, to the detriment of our team. And look, we had a really good run. Our record was really good in 4 years. We won 20 games essentially for 3 straight years. My third year, we almost won the whole thing in the conference tournament. We were up 9 with 3 minutes to play at Old Dominion, lost at the buzzer. My very first game as a head coach, our starting point guard, returning all conference player, Nick Norton. He's an assistant at Indiana now. Nick Norton tears his ACL at half court in the middle of my first ever coaching game. And I tell people he was the Tom Brady of our basketball team. He was the leader. He was the point guard. So, dealing with adversity and figuring out who I was and how I wanted to play, all those things were challenging, and it was an amazing learning experience. And I look back, my mind was racing 1,000 miles a minute every single day. I think I was exhausted physically and mentally throughout those years, trying to achieve something big time. In UAB, we had these incredibly high expectations. So even though we were winning 20 games every year and we were very competitive, you always felt like it wasn't enough. And I think that was very difficult as well. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's made me who I am today. I think it's the classic case of it's not what happens to you in life, it's how you respond. And hope for my family, my coaches now, our players, that I've been able to demonstrate how to respond to adversity when you are fired and everything you've dreamed about is instantaneously taken away and a lot of times out of your control. Was an amazing life lesson.
Hey, maybe a quick follow-up too. The title of our podcast is Deep in the Valley. And so just very quickly, you mentioned Nick Norton. His dad, Randy, played at the University of Iowa back in the day on Lute Olson's teams. He was a high school basketball coach at Davenport Assumption, and my brother played for him there. And then he's the women's coach at UAB. And then Nick actually, as a grad transfer, went to Drake and played at Drake. And so there's a lot of Valley and Iowa connections, whether it be Iowa high school or Valley connections. Can you talk a little bit about maybe that relationship with not only Nick, but then Randy Norton as well?
When Randy was the head coach, when I became the men's head coach, and his son was on our team. So you can imagine the dynamic. And I remember interviewing going through the interview and then talking to him on the side, like, hey, I'm really hoping to get the job. He was super supportive of me. He also had his son on our team. There was that dynamic. But yeah, he's done an amazing job at UAB as the women's coach. It was Nick left us at UAB, he transferred for his last year. It worked out well for him. That was at the time challenging for me as a young coach. And that was right when the transfer portal was happening. And to bring it all full circle to this weekend, this is a true story, believe it or not. I have never coached my son, my 10-year-old son. I've never coached him in basketball until this weekend. And I coached him this weekend in one of these tournaments with a couple buddies for the first time ever. And who are we playing in our first game? We're playing Tom Norton. Nick's older brother is coaching, and Randy Norton's grandsons that we played against. You talk about a full circle moment of basketball and how small this world is, and kind of a cool story.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so strange times for sure with the pandemic and on the coaching sideline for the 2021 season. How do you remain in the game during this time of transition professionally? Pac-12 Network, Top Connect, Leadership Academy. And then following that year, you take an opportunity to reunite with Coach Hass at Stanford. So how are the things same or different the second time around on the bench with him?
Yeah, a couple things. The year off of coaching was one of the best years of my life. It was COVID, so I was around my family. I had 3 little kids. The ability to kind of take a step back, reflect on who I was, what I had went through, reconnect again with my kids, and just a really good year. And one of the best things I've done in my whole career, you just mentioned it, was I started this thing called the Top Connect GA Leadership Academy for young coaches, totally free, an 8-week program that I created, really the curriculum of the coaching business and how to develop and grow. And I did it for 3 years, but I started it that year. And what it did was I was able to mentor 20, 40, then it was 60 young coaches, men's and women's, throughout those years, people I'm still close with. It's been amazing to see the success of them. And just the thought of, you know what, I want to take this opportunity to give back to young coaches and help them understand what it takes to be successful. Again, one of the best things I've done in my career, really proud of that and had a great time with that. And then, yeah, the opportunity to go back to be an assistant for Coach Hass at Stanford, a place close to my home where all my family was. arguably, I would say, the best academic institution in the world, an amazing campus. We lived on campus for 3 years, and it was good. I think I was able to take my head coaching perspective to hopefully, I think it benefited coach a little bit, but going from a head coach to an assistant coach is not easy. I tell this to everybody. It's ironically, it can be really mentally challenging. I think that first year I look back, I probably wasn't as good of an assistant as I could have been, just because you're going through so many emotions and the mental part of calling all the plays and doing all the subs and leading the program to now being an assistant. It helped that I worked for someone, Coach Haas, who I knew, who knew me, who I absolutely love, and who is one of the best people, not only in our profession, but in the world. So all those things helped make Stanford a really memorable few years for me.
Yeah, you recruited a lot of great talent in Palo Alto while you were there. The wins maybe didn't necessarily match up with the expectations or the talent. So how difficult is it in coaching a team where you know the talent and the work being put in is good enough to be successful, but you just don't see those results on the floor?
Great question. That was a challenge. I think when you look back, we had some good players. Spencer Jones is now in the NBA and doing well. Maxime Reynaud. We were never able to get over the hump at Stanford. It was a challenging because our guys worked incredibly hard. We were fighting naturally like a little bit of a home court, not an advantage, no home court advantage in Palo Alto because it's 75 degrees in January and everyone's building $1 billion company, it feels like, around the campus. But that was tough. I think it was tough for coach. It was tough for all of us. We had a great group of guys. I think you got to find, Brian, you got to find your purpose sometimes in this profession in things outside of winning and outside of meeting other people's expectations. And we won games. We had some amazing wins at Stanford. We upset Arizona a handful of times. You're ultimately judged in that situation if you go to the NCAA tournament, and we were close. We never got over the hump, but it doesn't disvalue the impact we had, I think, on many of the kids we coached, which is, look, at the end of the day, you got to find your purpose. I think that's why Coach Haas does it. That's why I coach, is to be able to make a lasting impact on young people's lives and be a part of something bigger than yourself. And representing Stanford, it was incredible.
So one door closes and another one kind of pops open at the end of this season. Coach Haas is let go at Stanford. And are you looking at this point trying to get back into the head coaching game before the decision was made, or going into the season you guys kind of knew maybe a little bit about what potentially could happen should the season go down that route? Talk to us a little bit about how that one door closed and then the new door at UIC opens up.
I joke with people, we were on the hot seat every year I was at Stanford. It was a running joke. And honestly, I think looking back at the time, I would have stayed there. We would have stayed there forever. It was just such an amazing place for your family to live. The end of that last year, before we were let go at Stanford, I had gotten a handful of inquiries about head coaching jobs. And it's just weird timing because some of the other years, maybe I hadn't, but a few schools reached out interested in talking with me about their head coaching vacancy, UIC being one of, obviously there was 2 others that I was in heavy talks with, and it all was coming fast. And I remember phone interviewing early in the morning, walking the strip on Las Vegas when we're about to play Cal in the Pac-12 tournament, talking to the athletic director here at UIC about the job. So it was an interesting time. It happened so fast. I think the timing was ideal for me and my family to be able, if there wasn't a head coaching opportunity that I felt good about, to try to pursue. Head coaching jobs, as you guys know, they are so hard to get. Doesn't matter how good you are or how well you do, it's so impossible. So to have the opportunity to come to UIC in one of the best cities in the world and one of the best conferences historically in college basketball, it was too good to be true. And I think the stars aligned and it all worked out.
And so every coaching change starts with culture before it starts with winning. And this change is a little bit different than your last one. At UAB, you were inside the program. You were a part of developing that culture. You wanted to make it your own, but now you're coming into a program from the outside where you really have to do the things that you need to do to make it your own. When you accepted the job, what did you see were your first priorities in setting up the team and building your culture?
I think at first was getting the right people on the bus, starting with staff, and then starting with the players. And this was, again, the transfer portal, NIL, all that was kind of ramping up. It was going to be incredibly important that in those first couple months that we got the right kind of people in here, that we're going to be coachable, that we're going to fit my personality, that we're going to be hardworking, high character. I think that was all that I really cared about in the beginning, was setting the foundation with the right people. I had 4 years since UAB to really reflect, think about what I wanted this to look like if I ever got the opportunity. So I think I was very well prepared to know what I believed in, how I wanted to do it this time around. And I think those kind of things really helped me in year one get this thing going in the right direction, 100%.
Yeah, you start year one, the 24-25 season. You guys go 17-14. You tie for 5th in the Valley, which was the best performance UIC has had since becoming a league member, and having a great balance between offensive efficiency and then on the defensive side of the floor as well. Go to this season, the 25-26 season, you have 19-16, so you have improvement there. You're 12-8 in the Valley. You tie for 3rd with Illinois State, Murray State. You play UNI in the championship game to represent the Valley in the NCAA tournament, and you end up finishing the year with an INT selection, going back out to NorCal and playing Cal out there in the first round. So talk about this nice quick turnaround that UIC's experienced with you at the helm, and how different last season was with some key injuries to your team, and kind of the tale of 2 seasons being successful basically on the back half of the year in some of the growth that the team has shown and it has been seen in Chicago at UIC in some time.
Yeah, I think the first thing is, having done this, being a head coach before at a similar level, Conference USA was really good, similar to the Valley as now. I think what helped me is I had a good pulse on players that are good enough, how good our team could be, coaching at this level. That experience, I think, first of all, helped me. And I remember walking into our first scrimmage, closed door scrimmage, Northern Illinois, my first year, and thinking, I really have no idea how good. I think we're going to be good, but really you don't know until with 11 new guys, you don't know until the ball's thrown up. And I think we had such a good group the first year that built the foundation. And one of my goals internally, I don't say this publicly, was just, I wanted to make UIC relevant. We're in a 1-bid league. You guys know this is such a competitive league. I wanted to make us relevant. We were picked dead last the first year here. And I remember taking it personal because I knew we had signed some good players. And I thought to myself, wow, this is like a personal shot at me, because there's no way we're going to finish last in the Missouri Valley. There's no way with this team we have. And I think we had to earn people's respect. We leaned into, like, we're the underdogs. We had this motto. We used it last year too. You can't kill me if I'm already dead. We have nothing to lose. We're going to let it rip. And we created a chip on our shoulder. And that first team, man, they laid the foundation that UIC can be a player in Chicago, can be a player in the Valley, can be a real threat in college basketball, mid-major college basketball. The next year, the transfer portal, the NIL challenges, the fundraising challenges that I think we experienced, we had to get 10 new guys again. We got a lot of young guys here last year as well, and we had some injuries. And I think I knew our team was going to be good. Again, I've been doing this for a while, so I knew our team was going to be good going into last year. We struggled. We lost 4 or 5 games, 6 games in a row. I think the first time ever in my career that I'd lost more than 4 games in a row. That was a hard pill to swallow. But the whole time I knew the way we were competing, the way we were together, we were close. We were close in all these games. At Belmont, we were winning for most of the game. We compete at Yale. We're right down to the wire with them. So we had lost a handful of games in a row, but I knew if we kept it together, we'd be all right. Elijah Crawford came back from injury. Obviously, he was a big part of our success. We got to win. We beat Southern Illinois at home, and it was like this huge weight off our shoulders, and you just felt it. And we just really took off, and we didn't look back until the end of the season. It was waking up, Missouri Valley championship game. The game's at 11 a.m., but you had the time change, so it was really 10 a.m. And I remember walking into the arena like 100% confident. Like we're going to go to the NCAA tournament. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. Give credit to Coach Jake and Northern Iowa. They shot the heck out of the ball and played an amazing game. But it was an incredible ride. Again, to go through what we went through in the beginning of the season and then to bounce back and play as well as we did. It's a credit to the guys that we had in the locker room, our coaches. And I tell this to recruits all the time, guys, we have a really just good thing going. We have good people. We have good people. We have good support. We have good administration. We're in Chicago. We've been winning. We have a lot of positive momentum. We have The fan base is growing. We've grown our donor support for basketball 20-fold in the last 2 years. Nothing unbelievable. We just have good people doing good things, and I'm super proud to just be a part of it.
Before we talk about the 26-27 edition, can you talk about making the roster yours and perhaps the philosophy and finding a balance between, in the portal era, between player retention, high school recruiting, and then finding players with the right fit for your program within the portal?
I think it's worked out very well for us. We've done a good job of having a good mix. We've had, obviously, last year, Rashawn Washington, Andy Johnson, some incredible freshman stories. Jason Nathaniel redshirted, but was really a freshman last year. And then we've also been able to balance a couple transfers in terms of guys from Chicago. That was a big thing when I got the job. I'm really proud of that. We've had a handful of guys from Chicago come back, and then guys that maybe with multiple years and 1 year. It's not easy. There's no perfect formula, or every coach would do it. There's risks in everything. And when you're recruiting in the portal and these are week and 2 week recruitments, you really don't know what you're getting until they get on their campus, and you don't know how they're going to fit you until you start coaching them. We try to do as much homework as possible, but we've tried to develop one, we're going to only recruit good kids, high character kids. And we've had a handful, and Elijah Crawford, and now this year, Gabe Cupps. We've had a handful of guys, Ahmad Henderson, guys that had played for or had connections to our coaching staff, which has also really helped us. So I think combine that with bringing the guys, Sam Silverstein home back to Chicago last year, bringing Josiah Hammonds back to Chicago. Now this year, having Asa Thomas come home, Makai Lowry, those kind of things, it's worked out very well for us, but it's not easy. And we've tried to also recruit a certain type of player basketball wise relative to how we play, especially defensively. So I think that maybe separates us a little bit from some other people. If you can't fit us defensively at the position we're recruiting, then it's probably not going to work as good. So we've tried to focus on that.
You've had the guys on campus here for a little while in June and July, and talk to the fans about what the summers look like for you from a development and team perspective, and how workouts are going, and then what makes you excited about this group heading into the season.
I think the thing first that makes me most excited, I've told this group, this team has a chance to be the best player-led team maybe I've ever coached. And I think part of that is we have 5 of our top 8 returning. And then part of it is the experience, maturity, and leadership of the guys that we've brought in. But in coaching NBA, college, you always talk about player-led teams. You want the best teams are the ones that are player-led. And I think in college, that's very challenging. To be honest, I've never really prescribed to that. I think in college, the coaches are the leaders. You have to demonstrate what leadership looks like. But we have a mature group. We have a group that knows me, that knows our system, that's very hardworking. And so I think the intangibles, the chemistry, the connection has been great. That's something we're going to lean into. And I think it has a chance to really help us be good. That being said, I think we've worked incredibly hard this summer. We've done what we've always done here to put ourselves in a position to have a good summer and develop and grow and build connection, as you said, and start the season off in the right way. That being said, this team will be the team. This team at UIC will be a team that has had the most expectations leading into a season than any team I've coached. So how do we manage that? I think will be big from a coaching standpoint, from an individual player standpoint. We have to keep that chip on our shoulder that we've played with the last 2 years, because that's been a driving force in our success, in my opinion.
You talked about developing the fan base, and in a city like Chicago, probably one of the best cities in the world. There's always a lot to do. You've got a Big Ten team in Northwestern. You've got Loyola, DePaul, and then UIC all right there. So if you're a college basketball geek, that might be, other than Philadelphia, Chicago might be the place to live. And so what's the administration doing to generate interest from the student base, first and foremost, but then finding those folks in the city of Chicago that are going to really jump on the Flames bandwagon and start to fill that arena? Brian and I have talked that this is quite possibly the best team that's been at UIC in a long time. So how do we get people in the stands to enjoy it?
I think building a home court advantage especially in our conference, is so important. When I was interviewing for the job, they asked me, I'll never forget this, what's going to be the hardest challenge for you, Rob, if you become the head coach at UIC? I said, listen, the hardest challenge is going to be filling Credit Union One Arena and building a real home court advantage in a league that does have a rabid fan base in a lot of places that really have a good home court advantage. My first year, I'll tell you guys this, before the first game, I took the team to the top of the arena the day before the first game. And honestly, I wanted to prep the guys. We had a transfer from Xavier, and you guys know the home court advantage there. We had a transfer from Utah State, and you guys know the home court advantage. So part of this was strategic too. I said, guys, look out there. I said, when you show up tomorrow, there is not going to be a lot of people in this arena. Okay. That means nothing. Our job is to go out, play for each other. And someday when you walk into this arena, this place will be full. And that's how we will know we have accomplished all our hard work. So I wanted to set the stage. Year two, I kind of did something similar. And one of the coolest moments from my time here was we're playing Belmont this year, ESPNU, national televised game in Chicago for the first time. They've had that in a long time. And the upper deck, there are people in the upper deck. And before warm-ups started, so warm-ups are done, and now they're about to do the introductions to the team. And Sam Silverstein walks over to me and he puts his hand on it. He said, Coach, we did it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, look upstairs. He's like, we did it. We got people upstairs in Credit Union Arena. We got this place almost full. That was, as a coach, as you guys can imagine, a cool moment. At the end of the year, we had record crowds. I've always said, you got to win to get people to come. You guys know, you got to build momentum. You got to win. Hopefully the expectation in a positive way will lead to more people coming, and we'll continue to have some of the record crowds that we had at the end of the season. But yeah, our admin's doing everything they can to try to get people in the seats. And we also had Sam's dad also helped financially contribute so that we could bus the students to games last year. He wanted his sons last year. He wanted to support the program. He wanted to see students there. So he kind of donated some money so that we could bus the students in for home games. Cause you guys know in Chicago, it could be 10 degrees out. That was a cool thing as well.
So yeah, this year, regardless of whether the fans are in the arena or taking it on, watching it on TV, what do you hope as a coach that they're going to say about your team when they get done watching you play, whether that's a fan or whether that's just a casual Valley basketball observer?
I think similar to what I said before, that we play with a toughness and an edge, and we're connected. And look, we want to have a lot of fun doing what we're doing. We're lucky to coach and play college basketball, and these young men now make a lot of money doing it. And you can't forget the joy in the game. And we want to compete. It's the foundation of our program, is compete and play as hard as we can. And we play an aggressive style of defense that hopefully people can get behind, in a physical brand of basketball. But naturally, I'm a guy that's charged with positive emotion and positive energy, and we want to show that on our team. And we have some incredible stories of individuals, from Rashawn Washington, no Division I scholarship offers, to Ahmad Henderson, who's about 5'8", $140, and and is incredibly successful. So we got a lot of good storylines within the team of guys that to root for and cheer for.
So the words you just used to describe your team, toughness, edge, fun, connected, are those then words that help describe Coach Rob Ehsan?
I think so. I think in my first year, my first stint as a head coach, I was trying to figure out what I thought a successful team was, and build around that. And I think you have to, as a leader, you have to build around your strengths and who you are as a person. I've learned that in my leadership journey. And I think the guys would say high energy and fun and competitive are three things that describe me. As a player, I joked in college, I led the country in two categories. Okay. My senior, probably more than just my senior year, fist pumps and charges. So that's all you need to know about me as a player. Yeah, exactly.
I love it. So you've been in the ACC, Conference USA, Pac-12, now the Valley. How would you describe the Valley Conference, Missouri Valley Conference basketball, to someone who's never really experienced it?
I think it is a very well coached, tough, high IQ mid-major basketball conference, and always looking from the outside in. Until I got here, you never wanted to play Missouri Valley School in scheduling. Seriously, at all costs, at Stanford, at UAB, you were trying to avoid the Valley because you knew they never maybe got as much recognition as good as some of those teams were. And obviously the league has gone through a transformational with conference realignment, but last year to the 9th best league in college basketball. It's a testament to, I think, the coaches and the history and the tradition of some of the programs and Midwest basketball. This general region, man, there's so many good players and good coaches, and it's been awesome to be a part of it and to see the passion. I think there's a lot of, for mid-major league, there's a lot of passionate fan bases. And it's why Arch Madness is such a cool thing still in college basketball.
How would you describe then regular season conference basketball in the Valley, just on a night-to-night basis?
I think it's brutal. I'll tell you what, in my experience, the other brutal part about it is we end a week early. Your whole season, so your season is condensed. There's no breaks. When you get after Christmas, it is an absolute 9-10 week grind. And I think this year was a perfect example. Northern Iowa was the 6th seed. Valpo was a game off, and what were they, the 10 seed? And they were right there. It could have been a top 2 or 3 seed. So the parity in the league as of recent has been incredible. Drake upset at Belmont, obviously. Drake had won Arch Madness the last couple years in a row, and now they were 9th this year. So just good basketball and a lot of parity, a lot of good teams.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about your team coming back and a lot of experience and some expectations. And you just talked about how tough it is, the schedule, and you didn't want to play a Valley team. Now you're that Valley team. How tough has been the non-conference scheduling for this season been, and about putting that schedule together? And was there anything that you're able to talk about?
So it's very hard. I ironically, before we jumped on this podcast, and I don't really do this, I text Coach Wardle at Bradley to say, is scheduling always this hard? And he said, and he responded, and again, I don't really do this often, but he responded, I'm used to this. And I asked him, I said, at what point do I start panicking that we're not going to be able to get enough games? Because incredibly difficult. We have a team that we feel like is going to be very good. So there's this balance. We want to challenge our team, but you don't want to overdo it, because 1 or 2 games or 1 or 2 injuries can change your whole deal in the whole season. So we feel like we're in a good spot. We still need another game or 2, which has been incredibly hard. My first year, guys, everybody wanted to play us. Phone is ringing off the hook. And for college coaches and former coaches, one of the most self-satisfying things that I've done a good job personally is that when we pick up the phone now, nobody wants to play us. So that's when you think you're doing a good job, as you guys know,
Yep.
right? So we're playing Charlotte. Wes Miller's a good friend of mine. They've really upped their program. They're going to have a ton of talent. We're playing Robert Morris again at home. We're going to play Miami of Ohio, coming off their year on a neutral floor. I'm trying to convince Coach Gottlieb to play us. All right. Up north. We've been in some discussions. That would be a good game. We're playing at Milwaukee, who Milwaukee has been historically tough as well. And then we're going at St. Mary's. So we're going back to Northern California, close to where I'm from. St. Mary's, obviously, that will be a really good game for us as well. And we've always played a lot of road games here. I think more than the head coach would really like, but that's how it goes. So yeah, it'll be a challenging schedule.
Yeah, one of the biggest news items coming out of the conference this summer, obviously, is the changes of the Arch Madness and the changes for UIC, and from your perspective, and how it's going to make the league stronger.
I think the goal of trying to get our team that gets into the NCAA tournament a better seeding, obviously, to do that, you need, in a perfect world, one of your top teams wins. Northern Iowa was a 6 seed, but they were one of the top teams analytically, metrically last year. And I think you've seen this all around college basketball. Teams are trying to protect the 1 and 2 seed to make the regular season mean more. Combining the tournament with the men's and women's, I think, will be a cool thing. I think there's going to continue to be discussions. We'll see how this goes. I think we're doing what everybody's doing. We're experimenting to see how does this formula now affect the seeding, and can we get multiple teams in the tournament? Because we've had some, as you guys know, some teams that I think, if given a chance to be in the NCAA tournament, could really do some damage. Yep. Obviously, the NCAA tournament is expanding as well. So I think just being on the cutting edge of trying to make adjustments to put the Valley in the best position possible is important.
One of the things that Brian and I noticed at last year's Arch Madness is that your student section grew the more games you won. And St. Louis to Chicago is pretty easy. When Dutt used to work in Chicago at the golf course there, he even sent his kid down on the train to Arch Madness. So talk a little bit about maybe how your student fans are going to get involved this year, both on campus and maybe hopefully into the postseason.
One of the coolest things, Chris, we've done is, and I credit our Chancellor Miranda, and our AD, Andrea Williams, they collaborated to take a bus of students down both years to Arch Madness, excuse me. And then when we won, it was like, okay, if you want to go here, it just kept building. And it was cool. I think we had as many students, as you guys said, maybe as anybody. That was a really cool thing. And to credit our administration for their support in that. We want to continue to build it. Like I said, we're going to continue to do things to get more students in the building. But we have this student group called the Flames Force. It's just started in the last year. It's growing tremendously. Men's basketball doing well. Women's basketball, Ashleen has revitalized UIC women's basketball. Our baseball team won the Missouri Valley Conference Championship. Women's soccer. There's just a lot of positivity. And honestly, UIC is expanding right now. In a time when some universities are struggling financially, we're growing. There's a ton of positivity around our campus and what we're doing. And I think we're just happy to be a part of it as well.
That's really exciting. Coach, we love to end our episodes with a little bit of rapid fire, just some softball questions. We want your honest reaction to just the first thing that pops into your head. And here we go. I'm going to let Brian kick us off.
So first one is your favorite Valley arena to coach in besides Credit Union One Arena?
I would say it's been Bradley because of the success we've had there. We've shot the ball incredibly well at Bradley.
All right. In regard to scouting and game prep, what has been the toughest Valley player in your first 2 years that you've had to prep for?
By far and away, it was Bennett Sturtz. No matter what ball screen coverage you have for it, it wasn't going to work. That was definitely a challenge.
Yep. And if Chris and I were to come to Chicago for a game this winter, it's going to be tough because I've lived in Chicago 3 different times. So I've got a little bit of background on this as well. But where are you going to send us for a pregame meal? Probably right near the stadium, right? And if you do, wherever you send us, what is your go-to order at that establishment?
Oh, good question. The historic Tufano's, as you guys know, right around the corner, and some fettuccine Alfredo. Can't beat it. The classic. Great.
I've actually eaten at Tufano's. Fantastic. So, Coach, who would be the basketball coach that you'd love to spend an afternoon talking with?
At any level?
Yeah, at any level.
I've become somewhat friendly with Mark Dagnall of OKC, and he is just and every time I've got a chance to talk to him or pick his brain, I feel like I learn so much, and he's been gracious enough to spend some time with me. So I'd have to say Coach Dagnall.
I have a theory that everybody has a caffeine delivery system. Do you have one, and what's your preference?
I don't drink any coffee ever in my whole life. So I drink chai tea a little bit.
Okay, chai tea. See, there you go. So my theory still remains. Yeah. You talked a little bit about dabbling with a job offer from Accenture. So if you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
I for sure would be, I would have said I would for sure be in my younger years in the financial industry in some way, shape, or form. But I don't know. Nowadays, an NIL agent's a pretty good gig, so you never know.
Right. And then maybe to end, one word that describes Flames basketball.
I would say passion. Had a lot of passion over the last 2 years, and we hope to keep that going.
Absolutely. So, Coach, we really appreciate your time with us today. We've had a lot of fun getting to know you, and looking forward to this season of Flames basketball. Any final words for the fans before we let you go?
I appreciate you guys having me on, and we're excited of where we're going and hope that people come out and support the Flames and are proud of what we've built.
Absolutely. So thank you, fans, for listening to us. That's another episode of Deep in the Valley. We appreciate you spending a part of your week talking Missouri Valley basketball with us. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to like, subscribe, share it with a friend. You can find it anywhere you find your podcasts all year long. And so from Cedar Falls to Des Moines, Nashville to Norval, Carbondale to Chicago, we'll be here every week telling the stories that make the Valley special. For Brian Duttler, I'm Chris Bowser. We'll see you next time, Deep in the Valley.